My sister unintentionally sent me a voice recording meant for our MOM. And what I heard about myself made me walk out the next morning with a plan she never saw coming. What if the person you trusted most, your own sister, was actually your secret saboteur? For me, Anitra, a single accidental voice memo landed in my inbox, exposing a betrayal so deep it twisted my stomach and shattered everything I thought I knew about family. Have you ever questioned if those closest to you were truly on your side? Believe me, after this you will. Main story. I'm Anitra, and at 28, I thought I had my life mapped out. Instead, I found myself back in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by old swim team trophies and faded posters. My interior design job in Chicago? Gone. Laid off. Moving back with my parents in Maryland was supposed to be temporary, just 3 months to regroup. My sister, Jenna, was also visiting with her perfect husband and kids. We'd always had this complicated thing, competitive but, still close. Or so I thought. Then that voice memo notification lit up my phone. One accidental message from Jenna, meant for our mom, changed everything. Coming back to Silver Springs felt like admitting defeat. Just 6 months earlier I was thriving. Junior designer at one of Chicago's most prestigious firms. My portfolio growing, clients asking for me by name. I was actually paying off student loans, living in my stylish tiny Wicker Park apartment. Then the recession hit the luxury market like a freight train. My boss, Graham, called me into his office on a rainy Tuesday, praised my work to the high heavens, and then handed me a severance package that wouldn't even cover 2 months of Chicago rent. I felt utterly gutted. After 26 rejections and half my savings gone, I swallowed my pride and called my parents. They immediately offered their home, promising it would be fun to have me back, especially with Jenna and her family visiting from Boston for the summer. That 12-hour drive from Chicago felt like a slow retreat, each mile a step backward in my carefully planned life. Mom rushed out before I even turned off the engine, smelling of the same lavender perfume she'd worn my whole life. Anitra, sweetie. You made it. She hugged me tight. Your father's grilling chicken and Jenna and the kids are so excited to see you. Dad just waved casually as if I'd been gone for a weekend, not 8 years. As I dragged my suitcase up the steps, I saw Jenna in the foyer. Her perfect blonde hair. Not a strand out of place despite the humidity. Well, look what the economy dragged in, she said, with a laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. She pulled me into a stiff hug. The prodigal designer returns. Good to see you too, Jen. I forced a smile. My niece and nephew, Lillian and Mason, were the only ones who greeted me with genuine enthusiasm. My heart lifted slightly. That first dinner set the tone. Mom had cooked all my favorites, but the conversation revolved entirely around Jenna's Boston real estate empire. We just closed on a waterfront property last week, she announced, cutting her chicken with surgical precision. 1.7 million. Tyler handled the negotiation brilliantly. Her husband, Tyler, gave a modest smile, puffing up a little. Just did what any good agent would do. Nonsense. Dad beamed. Not every agent could close a deal that size in this market. I pushed mashed potatoes around my plate. That's impressive. I actually saw some job postings at design firms here in town. Morgan & Wells is looking for someone with commercial experience, which I have from the Riverside Hotel project in Chicago. A strange expression flickered across Jenna's face, alarm, quickly masked by a bright, almost too bright smile. Oh, but I thought you loved the Chicago design scene, she chirped. Wouldn't taking a job here be settling? Mom jumped in. Well, I think it's smart to keep options open, but there's no rush. You should take some time to decompress after your setback. The way she said setback made my layoff sound like a personal failure, not an economic reality. I noticed Jenna and Mom exchange a quick, knowing glance. Growing up, for years apart, Jenna and I were always opposites. She was the practical, popular one, homecoming queen, straight A's. I was the creative dreamer, questioning everything, sketching rooms in my head. My report cards were full of A's in art and English, but B's and C's elsewhere. Those B's and C's always seemed to dominate the conversation. Later that night, unpacking in my childhood room, I found my old sketchbooks, full of designs. Some of those teenage concepts had actually formed the foundation of my portfolio. I flipped through them, remembering the pure joy of creation before career pressure and competition took over. A soft knock. Jenna stood in the doorway, 2 glasses of wine. Peace offering, she said, extending one. I know coming home isn't easy. For a moment it felt like old times, before adult responsibilities and invisible barriers. Your portfolio from Chicago? She asked, gesturing to the leather case. Can I see what you've been working on? I hesitated, then pulled it out. As I showed her my projects, explaining my concepts, I noticed something odd. Instead of her usual polite disinterest, Jenna was asking detailed questions. When I showed her a concept for a sustainable commercial space that had won an industry mention, she paused, studying it with unusual intensity. This is really good, Annie, she said, using my childhood nickname. Really innovative. It was the first genuine compliment she'd given my work in years. And despite everything, it warmed something in me. Maybe this time back home could heal some of the old wounds. But as she left my room, I overheard her in the hallway. Her voice was low but clear. No, she just got here. Yes, but I don't think. Listen, I need to make sure this works out like we discussed. An uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. I told myself I was being paranoid, that the stress of unemployment was making me suspicious. But sleeping in my too small childhood bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that beneath the surface of our family reunion, currents were pulling in directions I couldn't yet see. I just didn't realize how quickly I'd be pulled under. 2 weeks in, the initial awkwardness settled into an uncomfortable routine. Mom asked about my job search with a mix of concern and what felt like judgment. Dad retreated to his woodshop. Jenna worked remotely from the dining room, her professional real estate voice echoing through the house. The first truly odd moment came when I found Mom and Jenna huddled over coffee, whispering. They immediately straightened when I appeared. Good morning, I said. What are you two whispering about? Just discussing Mason's birthday party plans, Mom said quickly, too quickly. Mason's birthday is in November, I pointed out. Jenna laughed, a high, unnatural sound. We book venues months in advance. The good places fill up fast. I nodded, unconvinced, but let it go. Maybe I was oversensitive. Later that afternoon, my old classmate Maya texted me. Heard you're back in town. My boss at Riverfront Designs is looking for someone with big city experience. Interested in an interview. My spirits soared. Riverfront was the most prestigious firm in the area, handling luxury homes and boutique hotels. I texted back an enthusiastic yes, then headed downstairs to share the good news. I found Jenna and Mom flipping through photo albums. Great news, I announced. Maya Winters just texted. I have an interview at Riverfront next week. Mom's expression was carefully neutral. That's nice, dear. But isn't Riverfront rather small compared to your Chicago firm? Actually, they've expanded a lot, I explained. It could be a really good opportunity. Jenna's reaction was even stranger. Her smile looked plastered on, her eyes darting quickly to Mom. That's wonderful. Truly. Though I thought you wanted a break before jumping back in. I never said that, I replied, confused. I've been applying to jobs since I arrived. Of course you have, Jenna said smoothly. I just want to make sure you're not settling for the first thing that comes along out of desperation. The word desperation stung and my cheeks flushed. I'm not desperate. Riverfront is a legitimate opportunity. I'm sure it is, Jenna said, her tone suggesting exactly the opposite. Well, good luck with it. I retreated upstairs, bothered by their lackluster response. As I updated my portfolio, I heard Jenna's voice float up, urgent. Curiosity got the better of me. I moved quietly to the stairwell. We need to make sure she doesn't get it, Jenna was saying. You know how she is when she gets fixated on something? My stomach dropped. Was she talking about me? About the job? I couldn't hear Mom's response, but Jenna continued. I know, but trust me, it's for the best. She'll thank us later. I backed away, my mind racing. Was I misinterpreting? Could my own sister actually be trying to sabotage my job opportunity? It seemed paranoid, even for our competitive relationship. But the seed of doubt was planted. Over the next few days, I began noticing patterns. When I needed to update my portfolio website, our internet mysteriously slowed to a crawl. When I scheduled a practice interview with an old friend via video call, Jenna suggested a family outing at the exact same time. When I mentioned projects I'd highlight, Jenna made subtly undermining comments about how regional clients might find those concepts too urban. The gaslighting reached its peak during family movie night. The main character in the rom-com lost her job and returned home. Remind you of anyone? Jenna said with a laugh, nudging Mom. It's a common story arc, I replied evenly. Sure, but most people bounce back faster, Jenna continued. She seems a bit like you, living in a fantasy world about her talents. The room went silent. Even Tyler looked uncomfortable. Jenna, Dad said, a warning in his tone. What? I'm just saying Anitra has always had big dreams. Nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you have to face reality about where your skills actually are. My hands trembled as I set down my popcorn. And what reality should I be facing exactly? Girls, Mom interjected. Let's just enjoy the movie. No, I insisted. I want to hear what Jenna thinks my reality should be. Jenna waved a dismissive hand. Don't be so sensitive. I was just making conversation. You know how Jenna jokes, Mom added, as if this explained everything. I stood up. I'm going to bed. Enjoy the rest of the movie. In my room I paced, replaying every conversation. Was I being overly sensitive as they suggested, or was something more calculated happening? That night, I made a decision that went against my usual trusting nature. I activated the voice memo app on my phone and set it to record during family conversations. Not to be sneaky, I told myself, but as a sanity check. Little did I know, this decision would reveal far more than I was prepared to discover. The morning of my interview dawned bright and clear. I'd prepared for days. Despite the strange undercurrents with Jenna, I felt confident. This was my fresh start. I got ready carefully, applying makeup, styling my hair, putting on my navy blue interview suit, the one that got me the Chicago job. For luck, I added my grandmother's silver bracelet. As I was putting on my earrings, my phone chimed. A notification. A voice memo from Jenna. My first thought, an olive branch. Maybe wishing me luck. I tapped play, holding the phone to my ear. Mom, I need to talk to you about Anitra's interview today. Jenna's voice came through clearly. Hard. Calculating. I froze. Mascara wand halfway to my eye. This wasn't meant for me. She'd accidentally sent it to me. I should stop listening, I thought. But then I heard my name again, and something in Jenna's tone made it impossible to turn off. I called Riverfront yesterday, Jenna continued. Spoke to someone in HR. I told them I was a former colleague from Chicago with concerns about her work ethic. Suggested they might want to verify her references more thoroughly. My hand began to shake. The mascara wand clattered to the counter. Mom, we can't let her get established here. You know what Dad said about possibly helping her start her own small design business if the job search doesn't pan out? Can you imagine? After I've worked so hard to be the successful one in the family. I heard Mom's muffled response. Of course I feel bad, Jenna replied, sounding anything but remorseful. But remember that business plan she created in her final year of design school? The one for the sustainable interior design consultancy? My knees weakened. I sank onto the edge of my bed. Well, Jenna continued, I took that concept when she left it on her laptop during Christmas break. Those ideas became the foundation for the eco-friendly property division that made my real estate business stand out in Boston. The sustainable design concept had been my passion project. Months of work. I'd noticed similarities in Jenna's business, but dismissed it as coincidence. The truth is, Jenna's voice dropped lower, I've always been jealous of her talent. She makes everything look effortless. Do you know how hard I have to work for every client? Every sale? She sketches something beautiful in minutes while I'm grinding away. It's not fair. A pause. Yes, I know she's struggling right now. That's why this is the perfect time to make sure she finds something more suitable. Something that won't put her in competition with me. Another pause. I was thinking we could introduce her to Rick, Tyler's friend from college. He's not particularly ambitious either. He wouldn't mind dating someone unsuccessful. The voice memo ended. Presumably, Jenna realized she was recording. For several minutes I couldn't move. My body felt disconnected from my brain, as the implications washed over me in nauseating waves. My own sister had actively sabotaged my career. My mother was complicit. They had discussed my failure as if it were a foregone conclusion, something to be managed, not a temporary setback to help me overcome. I rushed to the bathroom, barely making it before I was sick. Splashing cold water on my face, I looked at my reflection, shell-shocked, pale beneath the carefully applied makeup. I played the message again, needing to confirm I hadn't imagined it. Each word cut deeper. The casual cruelty, the admission of theft, the ongoing conspiracy to keep me in my place. Worst of all was the revelation that my mother hadn't defended me. She had participated. The two people I trusted most in the world had been working against me, possibly for years. I checked the time. Interview in 90 minutes. Canceling wasn't an option. Not when I now understood what I was up against. With mechanical movements I fixed my makeup, covering the tears. Straightened my suit. Put on my professional mask. I walked downstairs. Mom was in the kitchen. Jenna sat at the table typing. Both looked up. "You look nice, honey," Mom said. "Big day today. Want some breakfast before your interview?" Jenna asked, her smile not reaching her eyes. "You need to keep your strength up." The normality of the scene was surreal. They had no idea. "No thanks," I managed. "I'll grab coffee on the way. Good luck today." Jenna called as I headed for the door. "Though you know what they say about luck. It's when preparation meets opportunity." Her words, once seemingly supportive, now rang with a chilling double meaning. I nodded without turning around, afraid my face would betray me. In my car, I placed my phone on the dashboard and pressed play on the voice memo one final time. I listened to my sister's voice detail her betrayal as I drove toward an interview she'd already attempted to sabotage. By the time I pulled into the Riverfront Designs parking lot, something had crystallized within me. Beyond the hurt and shock was a clarity I hadn't felt in months. I now understood the playing field and the players. The only question was what I would do with this knowledge. I nearly collided with a delivery truck on the way. My hands shook and twice I had to pull over. The voice memo played on repeat in my mind. "I've always been jealous of her talent. We can't let her get established here. I called Riverfront yesterday. Somehow I arrived at the sleek glass building. I sat in my car for several minutes, breathing deeply, reapplying lipstick. The woman staring back looked composed on the surface, but her eyes held a new hardness. Maya was waiting, her familiar freckled face breaking into a smile. "Anitra, so good to see you. Are you okay? You look a little pale." "Just interview nerves," I lied. "Thanks again for recommending me." Maya lowered her voice. "Listen, something weird happened. Someone called yesterday asking about you, claiming to be a former colleague with concerns. Grayson, the creative director, mentioned it this morning." My stomach twisted. "What did they say?" "Nothing specific. Just that the firm should verify your credentials thoroughly. Grayson thought it was strange enough to mention it to me. Corporate sabotage happens, but I never expected it for a position at our level." I nodded, trying to keep my expression neutral. "People can be surprisingly competitive." "Well, it backfired completely," she whispered. "Grayson is now extra interested to meet you. Anyone who inspires preemptive sabotage must be worth talking to," he said. A small flame of hope kindled in my chest. Perhaps Jenna's plan would fail after all. The interview room was bright and airy, overlooking the river. Grayson Turner, tall, salt and pepper hair, trendy glasses, stood to greet me. "Anitra Taylor, a pleasure. Your work on the Riverside Hotel in Chicago caught my attention. That ceiling installation was inspired." Despite everything, professional pride straightened my spine. "Thank you. That project had some unique challenges." For the next hour, I focused entirely on the interview. I pushed thoughts of Jenna aside, walking Grayson through my portfolio, discussing sustainable design, answering every question. Near the end, Grayson leaned back. "I should mention we received a strange call yesterday. Someone claiming to have concerns about your work. I rarely mention such things, but it was unusual enough that I'm curious about your reaction." I took a deep breath. "I appreciate your transparency. Without knowing exactly what was said, it's hard to address specifics, but I can tell you that my departure from Hartman and Associates was purely economic. They laid off their 5 most recently hired designers when they lost several major accounts during the recession." Grayson nodded. "That tracks with what I've heard about market conditions. And frankly, your portfolio speaks for itself. He closed my presentation on his tablet. Which brings me to the next step. We'd like to offer you a position as a senior designer. I blinked. Senior designer? Not junior. Your Chicago experience puts you ahead of our current associates. The salary would be $85,000 annually with benefits and a quarterly project completion bonus structure. We need you to start in 2 weeks. Is that something you're interested in? The salary was $15,000 more than I'd made in Chicago. The position was a step up. And it was happening despite Jenna's attempts to sabotage me. Yes, I said, finding my voice. I'm definitely interested. Thank you for this opportunity. After finalizing details, I walked to my car in a daze. The job offer should have been the highlight, the solution to my problems. Instead, it was overshadowed by the voice memo. As I sat in my car, my phone rang. Jenna's name flashed. I let it go to voicemail, but she called again immediately. Taking a deep breath, I answered. Hey, how did the interview go? Her voice was bright with false enthusiasm. For a split second, I considered confronting her, unleashing all my hurt and anger. But something stopped me. A strategic voice whispered, knowledge is power. And right now, I knew far more than she realized. It was fine, I said, keeping my tone neutral. They seemed interested. Well, don't get your hopes up too high. Regional firms can be very selective. But I'm sure something will work out eventually. Thanks for the encouragement, I replied, the words tasting bitter. Listen, I need to run some errands. See you at dinner. I ended the call. I couldn't go back to that house tonight. Not knowing what I knew. Not with the pretense of normalcy when everything had been revealed as a lie. Instead of driving home, I went to my bank, withdrew most of my remaining savings, enough for temporary housing. Then I found a modest extended stay hotel and paid for a week. In my hotel room, I sat cross-legged on the bed, laptop open, trying to make sense of the day. My phone buzzed repeatedly with texts from Mom and Jenna, asking where I was. I responded vaguely, saying I needed time to process the interview. As night fell, I stared out the window. This small city I'd once been so eager to escape now offered something unexpected. A fresh start, away from the toxic family dynamics I'd never fully recognized. This wasn't just about a job anymore. It was about reclaiming my narrative, my talent, my future. And as much as part of me wanted simple revenge, a wiser voice urged justice instead. Jenna had built her success partly on my stolen ideas. She'd actively worked to suppress my opportunities. My parents had enabled this dynamic our entire lives. I opened a new document and began typing, organizing my thoughts into what wasn't a revenge plot, but a strategic retreat. A plan to establish boundaries, reclaim my professional identity, and perhaps most importantly, to ensure Jenna finally faced the consequences of her actions. By midnight, I had mapped out my next steps. I would accept the riverfront position, but request a 2-week delay. During that time, I would gather evidence, secure my position, and prepare for the confrontation that would inevitably come. For the first time since hearing that voice memo, I felt a sense of calm purpose. I wasn't running away. I was moving forward on my own terms, and Jenna had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I waited for a text from Mom saying they were all going shopping. I needed 30 minutes alone in the house. I drove to my childhood home, using my key to enter silently. The familiarity of the space felt different now, tainted by what I knew. I moved quickly, packing essential clothing, professional documents, and a few sentimental items into 2 suitcases. I left furniture, books, most possessions behind. They were just things. What I needed now was freedom. As I finished packing my room, a thought occurred to me. Jenna had admitted to stealing my business plan years ago. Was it possible she had other evidence of her deception? Driven by this hunch, I quietly entered the guest room where she and Tyler were staying. I felt uncomfortable snooping, but reminded myself of what was at stake. After a careful search, I found a folder tucked in her briefcase labeled Green Home Initiative. Inside were printouts of my original sustainable design concepts from design school, complete with my handwritten notes. Some pages had Jenna's writing overlaid, adapting my ideas to real estate. Next to it was an email chain with Graham Hartman, my former boss in Chicago. The exchange was dated 2 weeks before my layoff. It read, Jenna, as requested, I've reviewed the situation. While Anitra's work is excellent, she would indeed be included in any reduction if we needed to cut staff. I appreciate the heads up about your family's concerns regarding her career trajectory. Sometimes these difficult moments become redirections to more suitable paths. I'll keep this conversation in confidence, of course. My hands trembled as I took photos of the emails and the folder contents. The layoff that had devastated me, that I'd thought was purely economic, had been influenced by Jenna's interference. She had reached out to my boss under the guise of family concern to ensure I would be among those let go. The betrayal cut even deeper than I'd imagined. This wasn't just recent sabotage. This was years of calculated undermining disguised as sisterly concern. I replaced everything exactly as I'd found it. In the kitchen, I left a brief note, taking some personal time to think. I'll be in touch when I'm ready. Please respect my space. Anitra. No accusations, no revelations. Just enough to buy me time. At the extended stay hotel, I transformed my room into a command center. Laptop open, evidence organized. I formally accepted the riverfront position, requesting a 2-week start date. Need to tie up some personal loose ends, I wrote. Grayson approved it almost immediately. Next, I reached out to former colleagues in Chicago, carefully asking about the circumstances of the layoffs. 2 separate conversations confirmed the layoff decisions had seemed oddly specific, targeting certain employees despite their performance records. My phone buzzed constantly with messages. Mama, where are you? We're worried sick. Dad, kiddo, call us. Your mother is upset. Jenna, this is childish. Whatever is bothering you, we can talk about it. I responded with minimal information, claiming I needed space to process the job interview and some personal realizations. I'm safe and will be in touch soon. Please respect that I need a few days alone. Their responses were revealing. Mom expressed worry but quickly pivoted to guilt. After all we've done taking you in, this is how you thank us? Dad seemed genuinely concerned but deferred to Mom and Jenna's interpretation of events. Jenna's messages became increasingly controlling, demanding to know where I was staying, when I would stop this ridiculous behavior. I maintained radio silence for 48 hours. During my research into Jenna's business, I discovered concerning patterns in her transactions. Several property listings had questionable disclosures regarding environmental assessments, precisely the area where she claimed expertise. In one case, she'd apparently withheld information about soil testing results from potential buyers. It wasn't my goal to damage her career, but these findings suggested her ethical corner-cutting extended beyond family relationships. I made an anonymous report to the State Real Estate Commission, providing documentation. This wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. As my second week away progressed, I focused on establishing myself at Riverfront. I visited the office daily, setting up my workspace, meeting colleagues, diving into the Meridian project. Everyone welcomed me warmly, impressed by my portfolio and ideas. Grayson took me aside after a productive meeting. I don't know what that caller was trying to accomplish, but they did you a favor. Your work is exceptional, Anitra. We're lucky to have you. His words validated what I'd always known but allowed family dynamics to make me doubt. With distance, my confidence was returning. By the end of 2 weeks, several things had fallen into place. My presentation for Meridian was complete. My apartment search yielded a small, charming place. And I had finally decided how to handle the inevitable confrontation with my family. I called my mother on Friday evening, keeping my voice calm and controlled. I'm ready to talk, I said when she answered. Not at the house. I'd like all of you to meet me at my new office on Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Your new office? Mom sounded confused. What are you talking about, Anitra? We've been worried sick. I'm sure she is, I replied evenly. Monday at 3. I'll text you the address. Please make sure Dad and Jenna are there. This isn't negotiable, Mom. Monday at 3 or we don't talk at all. After hanging up, I took a deep breath. The plan was in motion. In 3 days, everything would change. Not because I sought revenge, but because the truth needed to finally see the light of day. Monday morning arrived with a clarity of purpose I hadn't felt in years. I dressed carefully in a tailored charcoal suit with a deep emerald blouse. Power dressing wasn't just about looking professional. It was armor for the confrontation ahead. My first official day at Riverfront Designs began with a team meeting where Grayson introduced me as their new senior designer. Maya gave me an encouraging thumbs up. By 10 o'clock, I was at my new desk, preparing for my presentation to Meridian Development Group. Lawrence Carter arrived at 11, impeccably dressed. As we shook hands, he smiled, appreciative of my portfolio. "Grayson tells me you've prepared something special for us," he said. "I believe I have," I replied, launching into my presentation. For the next hour, I walked Lawrence and his team through my vision for their eco-friendly residential community. My designs were evolved versions of my original business plan, the one Jenna had stolen and built her reputation on. But my designs went further, incorporating everything I'd learned in Chicago and my own continuing research. "This is exceptional," Lawrence said when I finished. "It's exactly the fresh perspective we've been looking for. Most local firms are stuck in conventional thinking, but this..." He gestured to my renderings. "This is visionary." "Thank you," I said, maintaining professional composure. "There's one more thing I'd like to discuss. Meridian will need a real estate partner for marketing and selling these properties. Someone who understands the unique value proposition of sustainable homes." Lawrence nodded. "We've been interviewing firms, but haven't found the right fit. Do you have a recommendation?" "I might," I said. "If you're available at 3 this afternoon, I could make an introduction." Lawrence checked his calendar and agreed. As he and his team left, Grayson approached me. "That was masterful," he said. "Lawrence rarely shows that much enthusiasm. And you've already lined up a real estate connection for them? That's initiative." I smiled, not correcting his assumption. I believe in comprehensive solutions. The hours until 3 o'clock passed in a blur of orientation. I arranged the conference room, setting up my laptop to display specific slides. At 2:45, I got a text from Mom. "We're parking now. This building looks expensive." At 2:50, Lawrence returned, curious about the mysterious contact. I asked him to wait in Grayson's office, explaining I needed a private conversation with the potential partners first. Precisely at 3 o'clock, the receptionist called. I asked her to send them to conference room B. Then I took a deep breath and went to meet them. Mom entered first, her expression a mix of worry and indignation. Dad followed, looking uncomfortable in his rarely worn suit jacket. Jenna came last, face composed, but her eyes darting around, taking in the prestigious surroundings. "Anitra," Mom began immediately. "What is going on? 2 weeks without a word. And now this mysterious meeting? We've been sick with worry. Please take a seat," I said, gesturing to the table. "I appreciate you coming." "Of course we came," Jenna said, settling into a chair with practiced grace. "We're family. Though I must say, this dramatic disappearing act seems excessive, even for you. The subtle dig might have wounded me 2 weeks ago. Now it simply confirmed I was making the right decision." "I wanted you to see my new workplace," I said calmly. "I've accepted a position as senior designer at Riverfront Designs. Today is my first official day." Mom's eyebrows shot up. "Senior designer? But you just interviewed and you didn't tell us you got an offer." Dad leaned forward. "That's wonderful news, kiddo. Congratulations." Jenna's reaction was more measured, her smile not reaching her eyes. "How unexpected. I thought you were still considering options." "I was very clear about my priorities," I replied. "This position aligns perfectly with my experience and goals." "Well," Mom said, clearly flustered. "This explains the absence, I suppose, though you could have simply told us instead of disappearing." "Actually, my absence had another cause," I said, taking a seat across from them. 2 weeks ago, I received a voice memo from Jenna. A memo that was clearly intended for you, Mom, not for me." The color drained from Jenna's face. Her eyes widened with the realization of her mistake. "What voice memo?" Without responding, I tapped my phone. Jenna's voice filled the conference room. "Mom, I need to talk to you about Anitra's interview today. I called Riverfront yesterday." As the recording played, I watched their reactions. Mom covered her mouth, eyes darting between me and Jenna. Dad's expression transformed from confusion to shock to anger. Jenna sat frozen, her carefully constructed facade crumbling with each damning word from her own mouth. When the recording ended, the silence was deafening. Dad was the first to speak. "Is this true?" he asked Jenna, his voice tight. "Did you try to sabotage your sister's job opportunity?" Jenna's composure fractured. "You don't understand. It wasn't like that. I was just concerned that she was rushing into something out of desperation." "And my business plan?" I asked quietly. "The one you stole in design school? Was that concern too?" "I didn't steal it," she protested weakly. "I was inspired by it." "That's different." I opened my laptop, displaying the photos I'd taken of her folder with my original designs and her annotations. Inspiration doesn't usually involve direct copying or taking credit for someone else's original concepts. Mom attempted to salvage the situation. "Girls, clearly there's been a misunderstanding. Jenna would never intentionally." "Just stop, Linda," Dad interrupted, his voice uncharacteristically firm. "You knew about this. You were part of that conversation in the recording." Mom fell silent, her face flushing. "There's someone I'd like you to meet," I said, standing up. I went to the door and gestured for Lawrence to join us. As he entered, I made the introductions. "Lawrence Carter, CEO of Meridian Development Group. Lawrence, this is my family." I nodded toward Jenna. "And this is Jenna Taylor Morrison, the real estate agent I mentioned." Recognition flickered in Jenna's eyes. Everyone in local business circles knew Meridian Development Group and its CEO. This was potentially the biggest client opportunity of her career, walking into the room at the exact moment her deception had been exposed. "Ms. Morrison," Lawrence said, extending his hand, "Anitra tells me you specialize in eco-friendly properties. That's precisely what we're looking for in our new development partner." Jenna glanced at me, confusion warring with opportunity. She shook his hand automatically. "Yes, sustainable housing is my passion." "Wonderful," Lawrence continued. "Though I must say, the concepts your sister presented this morning were remarkably innovative. She mentioned they were evolved from initial work she did in design school. You must be proud to have such talent in the family." The implication was clear. Lawrence, whether intentionally or not, had just credited me with the original concepts Jenna had built her reputation on. Jenna's smile became strained. "Anitra has always been creative." I turned to Lawrence. "I should be transparent, Lawrence. I invited my family here today to address some concerning issues regarding those very concepts we discussed this morning." Lawrence looked between us, sensing the tension. "Is there a problem I should be aware of?" Before I could respond, Jenna stood abruptly. "Excuse us, Mr. Carter. This is a family matter that requires private discussion." "Of course," he said smoothly. "Anitra, perhaps we should reschedule our follow-up." "Actually," I replied, "I think it's important you hear this. Jenna's eco-friendly real estate approach was built on concepts she took from my business plan in design school. Concepts I've evolved and presented to you today." The room went silent. Lawrence's expression remained carefully neutral, but his eyes sharpened. He was, after all, a businessman. "I see," he said finally. "Family business collaborations can be complicated." "This wasn't a collaboration," Dad said, surprising everyone. "According to that recording, Jenna took Anitra's work without permission and has been actively working to suppress her sister's career. As her father, I'm ashamed and appalled." Jenna turned to him, eyes wide. "Dad, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly," he interrupted. "I've watched you two compete your entire lives, but I never imagined it had gone this far." Lawrence cleared his throat. "Perhaps I should give your family some privacy." "Before you go," I said, "I want to be clear that I didn't arrange this meeting for revenge or to damage anyone's reputation. The work I presented today stands on its own merits, regardless of its history. And Jenna, her business experience is valuable, regardless of how some of her concepts originated." Lawrence studied me for a moment, then nodded slightly, a glimmer of respect in his eyes. "Integrity noted. Anitra will be in touch about next steps." He shook my hand and left. As soon as he was gone, Jenna turned on me. "How could you? Do you have any idea what this could do to my business?" "I didn't expose you," I said calmly. "You exposed yourself when you recorded that voice memo. When you called my potential employer to sabotage me. When you stole my work years ago and built your reputation on it." I built my business through hard work, she snapped. Yes, I used some of your concepts, but I was the one who executed them. I was the one who took the risks. You were off playing designer in Chicago, while I was building something real here. And that justified sabotaging my career? Calling my boss in Chicago, making sure I would be laid off. Mom gasped. Jenna, you didn't. Jenna's silence was confirmation enough. Dad stood up, pacing. All these years we thought you two were just naturally competitive. We never imagined. He looked at Mom. And you knew about this? You helped her undermine your own daughter. Mom's eyes filled with tears. I just wanted what was best for both of them. Jenna seemed so threatened by Anitra's talent. I thought if Anitra found a different path, something less competitive with her sister, they could both be happy. So you decided what my path should be, I said quietly. Without my input. Without respecting my choices or my abilities. The truth hung in the air. Decades of family dynamics suddenly exposed. What happens now? Jenna asked finally, her voice small. Are you going to report me to the real estate board? Tell all my clients. I shook my head. I'm not interested in destroying you, Jenna. I just want to live my life and pursue my career without interference. The anonymous report about your disclosure practices was made because clients deserve transparency, not to hurt you personally. Her head snapped up. That was you? The commission is investigating me because of you. The commission is investigating you because of your actions, I corrected. Just like your current situation is the result of your choices, not my response to them. I stood up, gathering my materials. I have work to finish today. I've booked an apartment starting next week. I'll come by the house tomorrow to collect the rest of my things. Anitra. Mom began, reaching for my hand. Please, can't we talk about this? We're family. I gently withdrew my hand. Yes, we are. And that's why this hurts so much. Family is supposed to support each other, not sabotage each other. I need time and space to figure out what kind of relationship I can have with you moving forward. As I walked them to the reception area, Dad hung back. I had no idea, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I'm so sorry, Anitra. I should have seen what was happening. It's not entirely your fault, I replied. They were careful to keep you in the dark. Still, he shook his head. I'm proud of you. Not just for this job, but for how you handled this. You could have sought revenge, but you chose a different path. His words were a balm to the still raw wound of betrayal. Thanks, Dad. That means a lot. As they left, Jenna glanced back at me, her expression unreadable. For a brief moment I thought I saw regret. Then she turned away, following our parents out of the building that housed my new beginning. I returned to my desk, emotionally drained but strangely peaceful. The confrontation I dreaded was over. The truth was out. What came next would be challenging. But for the first time in years I felt like I was standing on solid ground, building my life on my own terms. 6 months after that pivotal confrontation, I stood at the windows of my office, watching autumn leaves dance. So much had changed. My promotion to design director came through last week, following the unprecedented success of the Meridian Eco Community Project. My small, stylish apartment now felt like home, decorated with pieces that reflected my aesthetic, free from family expectations. The most profound changes, however, were internal. The journey from betrayal to rebuilding had transformed me. In the immediate aftermath, I'd experienced a tsunami of emotions. Rage that left me screaming into pillows, grief that ambushed me, paralyzing anxiety about trusting anyone again. For 3 weeks I threw myself into work, then collapsed into exhausted sleep. It was Maya who finally intervened, showing up at my apartment with takeout. You're not okay, she stated simply. And pretending you are isn't helping. That night I finally let myself break down, telling her everything. Her suggestion for therapy was gentle but firm. Some betrayals are too big to process alone. She was right. Dr. Winters, a therapist specializing in family trauma, helped me understand that what I'd experienced wasn't just sibling rivalry gone wrong. It was a systematic pattern of undermining and gaslighting. Your success threatens the family narrative, she explained. Your sister as the achiever, you as the dreamer. Your parents enabled this dynamic because it was comfortable and familiar, not because it was true or healthy. Gradually, I built a new support network. Colleagues became friends. I joined a local design association. I even started a side project, renovating furniture for a women's shelter, finding healing and creating beautiful spaces for those rebuilding their lives. As for my family, those relationships evolved in unexpected ways. Dad was the first to reach out meaningfully, asking to meet for coffee. He came prepared with a letter, detailing all the times he'd seen my talent shine, but failed to advocate for me. I thought staying neutral was the right thing, he explained, his voice breaking. I never realized neutrality in the face of wrongdoing is just another form of harm. Our relationship slowly rebuilt on honesty. He started visiting my office, genuinely interested in my projects. When I restored an antique drafting table, he helped me reinforce the joints, our hands working together like when I was a child. Mom was a more complicated story. Her initial reaction had been defensive. Over time, influenced by Dad's changed perspective, she began to recognize the damage. Our conversations remained somewhat superficial, but they were no longer filled with subtle comparisons to Jenna or minimizations of my accomplishments. And Jenna? Jenna was the most surprising evolution. The real estate commission investigation resulted in a suspension of her license for 3 months and mandatory ethics training. Meridian Development Group ultimately chose another agency. The professional consequences she'd feared had indeed materialized, though not through any vindictive action on my part. I had expected anger, blame, even further sabotage. Instead, about 4 months after the confrontation, I received an email with an attached document. The subject line: what I should have said years ago. The attachment was a formal letter acknowledging that her eco-friendly real estate approach had been based on my original concepts. She'd sent copies to the State Real Estate Board, the local business association, and several industry publications. The end of the email was a personal note. This doesn't fix what I did. Nothing could. But it's a start. When you're ready to talk, I'm ready to listen. It wasn't an explicit apology, but from Jenna, this public acknowledgement represented a seismic shift. I didn't respond immediately, needing time. 2 weeks later, we met at a neutral coffee shop. The conversation was awkward, halting. Jenna looked different, less perfectly put together, more authentically present. Tyler left, she said abruptly. Said he didn't know who I really was anymore. Took the kids to his parents. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Despite everything, I never wanted her children to suffer. She shook her head. Don't be. Forced me to look at myself. Really look at what I'd become. At what I'd done to you. She met my eyes directly. I was terrified of you, Anitra. Always have been. Your talent, your authenticity. Everything seemed to come naturally to you. Nothing came naturally, I corrected her. I worked incredibly hard. You just never saw it because you were too busy trying to ensure I didn't outshine you. She nodded, accepting the harsh truth. I know that now. I've been talking to someone too. A therapist. Trying to understand why I felt so threatened by your success that I actively tried to prevent it. We talked for nearly 3 hours that day, peeling back layers of our shared history. There were no magical reconciliations or tearful embraces. Just 2 adults beginning the long, difficult process of rebuilding something that had been broken for as long as we could remember. Family therapy followed, with all 4 of us sitting uncomfortably in Dr. Winter's office, learning to communicate without the destructive patterns of the past. Progress was nonlinear, but slowly, incrementally, we began to forge new relationships based on who we actually were, rather than the roles we'd been assigned. Today, as I prepared for a family dinner, our monthly attempt at rebuilding connections, I felt neither the dread of our early post-confrontation gatherings, nor the naive hope for perfect resolution. Instead, I carried a grounded acceptance of our flawed, complex reality and the ongoing work it required. The most profound lesson of these 6 months wasn't about family dynamics or professional validation, though those were significant. It was about the quiet power of standing in your truth without being consumed by bitterness or the desire for revenge. Justice didn't come from ensuring Jenna suffered consequences equal to the pain she'd caused me. It came from breaking free of the narrative that had constrained me, from reclaiming my talent and worth, regardless of anyone else's attempts to diminish them. My phone chimed with a text from Dad. On our way. Bringing that wine you liked last time. I smiled, gathering my keys and bag. The future remained uncertain. Our family relationships works in progress, rather than neatly resolved storylines. But I move through the world differently now, confident in my boundaries, clear in my worth, free from the need for external validation. The voice memo that had shattered my world had also paradoxically been the catalyst for building a truer, stronger self. Not because betrayal makes you stronger. That's too simple a narrative. But because facing reality, however painful, opens possibilities that denial never could. Call to action. This journey has been incredibly tough, but it's taught me so much about resilience and self-worth. It makes me wonder, have you ever discovered someone close to you wasn't who you thought they were? What did you do? Share your own experiences and thoughts in the comments below. I'm truly curious to hear how others have navigated such complex betrayals.